Listening is an act of love. Thank you. You can help lift up the voices, stories, and challenges we share by making a contribution at ThisWayOut.org.
A sincere thank you to all of you who already support This Way Out. Your support matters.
I'm Michael Taylor Gray.
And I'm M.R. Raquel.
With NewsWrap, a summary of some of the news in or affecting LGBTQ communities around the world for the week ending February 19th, 2022. The European Union is entitled to block financial aid to member states for violating its basic rule of law principles. That's the ruling of the European Court of Justice in response to challenges by Hungary and Poland. This week's decision by the EU's highest court supports the 27-nation bloc's right to suspend support payments to both countries. Critics point to recent moves by the increasingly autocratic administrations of Hungary's Prime Minister Viktor Orbán and Poland's President Andrzej Duda to censor media outlets, corrupt the judiciary, and deny basic human rights to LGBTQ people. It's the latest escalation in Hungary and Poland's clash with EU legal supremacy. Orbán, in particular, has taken out a defiant Mussolini-like position that the EU has no business meddling in Hungary's national affairs. His national affairs include playing the homophobia-transphobia card in an unexpectedly tight re-election campaign. Poland's spokespeople have been less obstinate, but also claim a violation of national sovereignty.
That decision by the European Court of Justice follows calls in the European Parliament for funds to be withheld from repressive governments. The significance of the moment was marked on February 16th by the court's first live broadcast of a ruling. The justices wrote, "The European Union must be able to defend its democratic values within the limits of its powers. Decisions by the Luxembourg-based court cannot be appealed." Amnesty International's media release said, Hungary and Poland have been rapidly backsliding on media freedom, independence of judges, and the right to protest. Instead of trying to oppose EU funds by being conditional on respect for the rule of law, they should respect people's rights and clean up their act. Poland and Hungary are both heavily dependent on EU funding. The Associated Press reports that unrelated vetting issues have already held up 41 billion euros from the EU's Pandemic Recovery Fund designated for Poland and 8 billion designated for Hungary. The ruling could impact those funds, too. Hungary and Poland have each threatened to retaliate, according to Reuters. They could stall EU decisions requiring unanimity on issues such as climate, energy, and foreign policy. At this critical time, they could disrupt a unified European Union response to Russia's threatened invasion of Ukraine.
Speaking of Russia, President Vladimir Putin tried to invade a queer organization and lost this week. A St. Petersburg court quashed a Justice Ministry attempt to shut down the Sphere Foundation, which funds the Russian LGBT Network. The ministry wanted to, quote, liquidate the foundation because of the network's illegal spreading of LGBT views and violation of traditional values. The Sphere Foundation was designated as a foreign agent in 2016. Authorities claimed that they were backed by outside anti-Russian entities. The Russian LGBT Network is also on the foreign agent list. It may be best known for creating a rainbow railroad with allies in Canada for queer Chechen refugees escaping genocide in that mostly Muslim region of Russia. Sphere Foundation spokesperson Delia Gafarova said, LGBT plus people are the citizens of this country, just like every other social group, and deserve the same rights and freedoms. We feel the case of Sphere's liquidation can become the biggest case about LGBT plus in Russia, about our very right to exist. A Facebook post from Sphere Foundation founder and queer activist Igor Kochitkov was translated in part, "This is political persecution at its finest, and the Ministry of Justice this time is not even trying to hide it."
Kuwait's constitutional court has overturned a penal code statute making it a crime to imitate the opposite sex, a statute often used to target trans women for harassment and arrest. The court said on February 16th that the law was unconstitutional because its general phrasing risked violating personal freedoms. Amnesty International sees it as a major breakthrough for transgender rights in the Gulf Arab region. The global human rights group is calling for the immediate release of people now in prison for violating the statute. That includes trans woman Maha al-Mutiri, who was sentenced in October to 2 years for imitating the opposite sex online. Lawyer and activist Sheikha Salman worked on al-Mutiri's case. Salman likes the direction of the High Court's decision, as she said, "It was unconstitutional and no one can doubt that." However, she anticipates further resistance by conservatives and warns, their fight back is going to be vicious for sure.
Thai lawmakers approved marriage equality legislation this week, but it'll likely be a long engagement. The February 16th vote of 219 in favor, 118 opposed, 12 abstaining, and 1 not voting sent the measure to the cabinet for study. The cabinet has 2 months to act, after which the legislation returns to Parliament. So activists are not popping the champagne corks just yet. They're concerned that it's just the beginning of an endless rinse-repeat cycle. Parliamentary passage, cabinet stall, back to Parliament. 2 days earlier, activists in Bangkok used Valentine's Day to publicly demonstrate for full marriage equality. A prominent gay couple applied for a marriage license and, as anticipated, was rejected. In related news, Taiwanese marriage equality campaigners braved a typical February downpour in Taipei for their own Valentine's Day demonstration. They were protesting recently enacted legislation that only allows binational same-gender marriages between citizens and spouses from other marriage equality countries. Andrew Shuang has been separated from his Japanese partner for more than 2 years. He told Agence France Presse, "It's not me who loves the wrong person. It's the government that fails to correct its mistake."
Finally, a new Gallup poll released this week reveals a galloping increase in the number of LGBTQ-identified people in the U.S. Some would no doubt say it proves that queerness is contagious, but the figures are more likely due to an outbreak of acceptance giving queer people more confidence than ever to come out. 3.5% of respondents to the 2012 Gallup poll said that they were queer. A decade later, that percentage has more than doubled to 7.1%. 86.3% identified as straight or heterosexual, 7.1% as LGBTQ or other than heterosexual, and 6.6% declined to answer the question. More than 12,000 adults participated in the telephone survey last year. The margin of error is plus or minus 1%. The Gen Zers are far outpacing older generations. They were born between 1997 and 2003, and more than 1 in 5 of them identify as LGBTQ. The most common specific queerness was bisexuality, accounting for 57% of LGBTQ identifying respondents, with a margin of error of plus or minus 5 points. That's some 4% of the entire U.S. population. As Gallup notes, this is occurring as more of Gen Z is reaching adulthood. These young adults are coming of age, including coming to terms with their sexuality or gender identity, at a time when Americans increasingly accept gays, lesbians, and transgender people and LGBT+ individuals enjoy increasing legal protection against discrimination. With 1 in 10 millennials and 1 in 5 Gen Z members identifying as LGBT, the proportion of LGBT Americans should exceed 10% in the near future.
That's NewsWrap, global queer news with attitude, for the week ending February 19th, 2022. Follow the news in your area and around the world. An informed community is a strong community.
NewsWrap is written by Greg Gordon, edited by Lucia Chappelle, produced by Brian DeShazer, and brought to you by you.
Help keep us in ears around the world at ThisWayOut.org, where you can also read the text of this newscast and much more.
And you can read the transcript and listen to NewsWrap each week by subscribing to our This Way Out radio channel on YouTube. For This Way Out, I'm MR Raquel. Stay healthy.
And I'm Michael Taylor Gray. Stay safe.
This Way Out delivers LGBTQ news and culture to more than 150 local communities on radio stations around the world, and we are also a free online news service. You can choose your favorite way to listen, online or on the air, at thiswayout.org. Please sign up for our free e-newsletter, Inside This Way Out. We will respect your trust in us and make sure your personal information is never shared with others.
Just send us an email at info@thiswayout.org to receive the informative and unique addition to the show. You'll be invited to join us for a more in-depth look into our stories and be encouraged to learn more about This Way Out's 3 decades of broadcast activism.
We hope you choose to join us in celebration of LGBTQ history and culture. Email us at info@thiswayout.org to join the movement.
We'll make sure you always know what's going on inside This Way Out.